Hello everybody, I'm back with another video for you, and it's time for the Scuffed meta snapshot. Now I have quite a few decks here that I've ran into and that I've seen other people playing on streams and whatnot, and also a few decks here and there from Team Leviathan Gaming's meta snapshot, which I haven't seen too much of, but I figure they are probably quite popular, maybe at different ranks and whatnot, so I've added some of them in here as well. But yeah, let's jump right into it. We have Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. I haven't gone too in-depth on, a lot of the decks that aren't super common, but there are a lot of other things out there that aren't going to be on the meta snapshot here, as always. I've also included some of my own decks, just not because they're necessarily popular, although I think some of them are at certain ranks, but mainly because I wanted to show kind of where they fit in terms of power level, just for those of you that care or are interested. So yeah, let's jump right into it. I think the Tier 1 decks are not really too surprising. Different people probably have different opinions on what is Tier 1, and some people even say Shield Wall is Tier 0. I don't think it is. I think this Shield Wall deck, or one similar to this, is pretty strong, but it's not unbeatable by any means. It has some really powerful plays with, of course, the Shielded Ansays and Selkirk, which can duel stuff and really knock down high-strength units or big threats, and that gives it some nice matchups, particularly against stuff like Scoia'tael, I would imagine. But I don't think it's like game-breakingly strong. I think it's just pretty decent and definitely able to compete with other things, but not way above everything else. So this is definitely a strong pick of a deck. NR is looking pretty good on this patch, but it's not, super mega busted, just a strong deck with some engine power and some solid removal as well. Then we've got Skellige. Skellige, again, pretty strong. All of the Tier 1 decks here are. You've got some removal options with things like Hjalmar, which people tend to be running, Scoia'tael, of course, comboed with Blood Eagle, and some people play Decoction, some not, depends on your taste, I guess. And you've got War of Clans and things to get some easy removal with Warrior, so really nice removal, good value from the leader, and of course, great swords pulling a lot of weight in this deck, doing a lot of good stuff, getting to be 10 for 6s most of the time and setting up that Hjalmar. So this is a very strong deck, a lot of nice, solid, chunky plays, Totem, Heimdall, all these good things that we've come to know from Skellige. That's Rage of the Sea. We've got Nature's Gift as well, which I'm sure you've seen. I think this deck's very popular at the moment from what I've been seeing, and it seems very strong, so I put it in Tier 1. I know other people might think it's a bit weaker than that, because it is quite vulnerable to, particularly Nilfgaard, I think, has a good time against this, because they can invocate the big Hammer Dryads, they can Vincent the big Hammer Dryads, and if Hammer Dryad is not a card that you're getting value from, then it's a bit harder to win with this deck, but you've still got that finisher Gord at the end of the game for huge points, some other engine value with Truant Boar and Dunker, and of course just solid value from a lot of the removal cards, Protector, Heatwave. You can deal with a lot of threats, and your threats are very, very scary if they're not dealt with. Mahakam Volunteers is Harold Gord apparently, but that's usually your Novigradian Justice target for a bit of thinning. So I think this deck's really good. Got Elias as well in there. Yeah, the card arts are a bit messed up, but I'm sure you guys know the deck already, and if not, it's in the description. Alright, let's head on to Tier 2. Now, Syndicate's not super popular, but I think it does slide into Tier 2 quite nicely. Maybe it is more popular than from what I've been seeing, but it tends to not be played a huge amount because it's one of the harder factions. But Hidden Cache is still very good as a leader, particularly if you tech in like a Heatwave or a Moriels, because that allows you to deal with some of these big threatening cards from the other factions, particularly Scoia'tael. So yeah, you're just kind of engine-based Passiflora Peaches, and of course all those Horde synergies, the Lieutenant von Hurst, and Passiflora all work really well with Hidden Cache still. So pretty good leader, pretty hard to play, not as hard as Pirate's Cove, which I think is also very good, but less played than even Hidden Cache, I think. Both Syndicate leaders are not super popular at the moment, although they are pretty good. So yeah, Syndicate, not much too different. You can also play around with the Shack if you'd like, and I suppose you can also do devotion things. I guess this is devotion technically, but without the cards that actually benefit from that. So you can experiment a bit there, put Bomb Heaver in if you feel like it, etc. And yeah, contrast to that, we've got a bit of Pirate's Cove, which swaps out a few of the bronzes like Sea Jackal and stuff to be able to, just pull one with Pirate's Cove, so you're a bit more flexible, but probably about the same power level as Hidden Cache, a little bit less flexible in terms of the coin and the horde amounts. So you have to get to 9 coins for the Redanians, stuff like that, which can be a bit trickier. So it's a bit less flexible in that regard, but more flexible in terms of having a spender on demand. So it's kind of pick your poison. Would you rather be more consistent in the earlier rounds or more consistent in the later rounds? I think Pirates Cove is better later on in the game, but Hidden Cache can bully and do nice things in round 1 and 2. So both are pretty good for Syndicate, and that's what you're going to want to go for if you do play Syndicate, unless you want to do some swarm things, but we'll talk about that in a second. So, we've also got another Skellige deck here, which could arguably be tier 1 as well. Patricidal Fury is still pretty good. You can, of course, instantly activate Champion's Charge with your leader, Blood Eagle with leader, getting those Sirens on the board. Donar is really good in this deck, and you can often play Lugos as well. That's a card that some people run, some people don't. You might want to swap out Hjalmar for him. That's kind of up to personal preference. Lugos is probably a good one to put in Patricidal Fury for sure. But yeah, this is just pretty similar Skellige stuff to Rage of the Sea. Just kind of depends whether you prefer the sort of Champion's Charge and maybe more tool removal, but being more susceptible to getting your Bloodthirst denied potentially, or would you prefer that just tried and tested Rage of the Sea 14-point value? Kind of up to you. They're both pretty viable. They could arguably be put in the same tier, I would say. And next we've got a different kind of shield wall, not really too different to the other one to be honest, just with Visigoda of Corvo instead of with the good old War Elephant and stuff like that. I've seen people running Dandelion as well in these kind of decks, so if you want to try that you can. Maybe swap out some of the bronzes, Cuckoo Dak, Boiling Oil, Frigate, try to fit in the Dandelion. That can be quite a nasty combo with Visigoda of Corvo. If you want to go for more of an engine focused NR, this is probably what you'd go for with Shield Wall. Also, Uprising is still a leader, which is pretty damn good, but I haven't included it here just because, I mean, it's Uprising. It hasn't changed too much, and it's also not super popular. I also haven't included some of the more memey stuff like Royal Guards, even though that's definitely a strong deck, because I just don't think it's very popular at all, but that's another option for NR if you want to try that. I might even be playing some more of that myself in the coming days, but we'll see. But yeah, Devotion NR is just good, so yeah. That's all there is to say about that, really. Next, we've got some Nilfgaard. So I've seen a fair amount of tactical decision, kind of spies-based, almost like devotion-heavy Nilfgaard, and I'm not sure if they're always running Masquerade Ball or not. I think some people choose not to, but it kind of makes sense in this kind of a list with Enforcers. Kind of very similar to decks that were being played. I'll just refresh because the cards are a bit wonky. Similar to decks that were being played when sort of the evolving cards came out. Just really relying on the opponent not having a Bomb Heaver and then getting a lot of good value from both those Enforcers and Thirsty Dames. Now some decks, yeah, I'm not sure, they might be running actually no Dames and just all in on Enforcers, so that's kind of something you can mess around with as well, but this is probably your best shot for Nilfgaard, I would say, unless you want to try something a bit spicy. You can try my deck, which I don't know how popular this is. I don't think many people are playing something like this, but you could play Formation in general and it would still be okay. But I do recommend this deck. It actually works pretty damn well, especially against a lot of the greed that people are running at the moment with the Kahir and Letho. You can shut a lot of things down. It looks very wonky, but I can assure you this deck is sitting in about tier 2. It's pretty decent, at least until people catch on and can know exactly how to shut down your plays. But yeah. Imperial Formation is actually still pretty okay, so you can give that a go as well if you're feeling it. And then what else do we have? We have Precision Strike. I haven't seen very much of this, but I am pretty sure this is a good deck. I think it was very good last patch. Shiru kind of shenanigans, buffing him up, destroying a bunch of units, and you've got some Symbiosis value in there as well, cheekily. And yeah, Broccolon Sentinel getting buffed is kind of a huge deal. This leader probably quite a bit stronger as a result of that. Having those as 4Ps is pretty huge. So yeah, pretty decent devotion deck, and another option for Scoia'tael if you don't really like the Hammer Dryads and all the vitality. You can try some Shiru instead. Alright, now into tier 3. This is kind of where the not so great decks are. These are okay. Monsters is kind of chilling in tier 3, I think. They don't have anything super great if your opponent knows what they're doing. But I might be underrating things like the Carapace and the Overwhelming Hunger. They might be more tier 2 worthy. That's something you'll have to kind of work out yourself. I have my deck here. I've seen a lot of people, especially at lower ranks, I think, playing this and having a lot of fun with it. And it is a pretty good deck. You've got the series with the Veils. If your opponent can't really shut them down. Certain decks are not able to. Some can. Very difficult deck to play. That's where the real part of this comes in. Yeah, it's very hard to play. You need card advantage for round 3 quite often to enable your Keltulis properly. If they shut down Keltulis, you often are lacking points. You've got this Stregobor Matter combo for flipping the coin flip on round 1, but you can swap that out if you want. But yeah, some kind of Carapace, Kelly deck Keltulis is pretty decent, I think. Probably tier 3 worthy, uninteractive, and just, kind of annoying to deal with. And then we have sort of the more mainstream version of monsters, which is probably Overwhelming Hunger, where you've got Maruna, Imperial Manticore, Werecat as pretty good options, and Detlaf targets for your leader, Haunt value, and then Oberon Devotion, and a bit of Wild Hunt Frost synergy there. Quite a nice deck, but I'm not sure how strong it is. I would say it's probably tier 3 just because it lacks answers to some of the better decks, let's say. Some of the tier 1 decks are going to probably smash this. I'd say it's probably hard to beat Scoia'tael and Northern Realms with this, but it's doable. But probably this is a tier 3 or tier 2 deck. Not sure exactly where it should go, but yeah, decent. This is probably the best monster deck in terms of just value and consistency. Pretty decent stuff. And then if you're not feeling Passiflora shenanigans, you can play Swarm Syndicate. I'm not sure how good this list is, to be honest. I just took it from Leviathan's meta snapshot. I did see some people playing lists similar to this, so I'm not sure if that's a mainstream thing, but I don't think it's particularly great. I know a lot of people are vouching for it because there's not a huge amount of Swarm counter in the meta, so that can make Swarm a bit better, but I mean, it's still Swarm and it kind of lacks points in shorter rounds, and also can just be a bit awkward sometimes, I think, with certain hand states. But if that's your thing, go for it. It might be stronger than tier 3, but I haven't really played enough against it or with it to know for sure. And we've got Hyperthin here. I'm not sure that many people are playing Hyperthin anymore because it's a bit gimmicky and kind of does get shut down by a lot of things, but it's an option. If you like that style of gameplay, you can get those big Tibor pulls with your Yennefer, with your Triss, etc. in the late game after thinning your deck a lot with the Hunting Pack and Brigade. So pretty fun deck, pretty clean style of gameplay with that tactical decision leader and a fan to thin out. Yeah, pretty good stuff, but I don't think it's like super strong. More tier 3 worthy. Can win, but kind of requires your opponent to not really be interacting with you too much and to not really be aware of your game plan, which is sometimes the case. And last but not least, we've got my Mac and Forge deck, which again, I don't know how popular this is. I've seen a couple of people playing it on ladder, but uninteractive Glace finisher. You can also do kind of trap finisher things, which I think a few people might have been trying, but this deck's pretty cool. I wouldn't say it's particularly strong. It's probably tier 3 as well as all these other decks. Can win games against certain things, has bad matchups though, and can lose if your opponent knows what they're doing. But yeah, pretty decent deck. Check out the video I did on that if you want to know more about this deck. It's just kind of Dwarves round 1, uninteractive round 3, and hope the Glace carries you pretty much. So yeah, that's about it for the meta snapshot, guys. Scuffed as usual, but let me know your thoughts down below if you think I nailed it or if I missed a few decks or whatever. Feel free to share those thoughts. And do subscribe if you haven't already, guys. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.